Hello, everybody, and welcome. I am Dr. Cameron Garber, and I'm here with Dr. Brianne Showman Brown, and we are actually at a conference together at CSM. So it's essentially all of the specialty groups within physical therapy. They all convene in one place, and we have a huge, 4-day party of learning and sharing information and the latest, greatest research, and it's a ton of fun. And we get to meet with all of the other therapists around the country and share ideas. And so that's why we're here. And so Brianne and I wanted to meet and share some ideas with you as well while we're here, kind of put our heads together and combine some knowledge. So we wanted to share a little bit more with you about how you can change your lifestyle patterns. And so, I talk a lot with my clients about how life is just a series of patterns. And so we have eating patterns and exercise patterns are the two main patterns that we want to talk about. And so some of the things that we do to make changes in those patterns. And I have found, I don't know about you, well, yes I do, because we've talked about it a little bit, but some of those patterns are most easily changed little bits at a time.
Yes.
Right? What's your take on that, I guess?
That the reason most people, like, New Year's resolutions is a huge thing, and by the end of January, 90% of people have failed because
right.
They're changing everything. They want this great lifestyle, so let's change fitness, eating, etc. all at the same time.
Right.
And that's just failure.
Right.
It's just setting yourself up for failure versus picking something and just working one step at a time in order to get to this larger goal.
Absolutely, I totally agree. I find too that the goal is often focused on not really a quality of life type goal. It's more of an aesthetic goal or something like that, rather than like, I want to be able to do, it's like, I want to look this way or something like that. And those goals tend to not be as successful.
Correct.
Because they don't really focus on a stepwise progression leading to something. Instead, it's like, I want to look like this magazine, right? And that's a lot harder, to achieve because it's usually pretty superficial and unattainable, really. And like I said, it's not based on a stepwise series of goals.
Yeah.
So what do you do then to help your patients get through that?
So I'll explain to them as far as, we want to make a lifestyle change. We want to try to make this a habit rather than just something that you can't stick with. And so what we're going to do is we're going to pick one thing this week and we're going to work on just addressing that change. I typically start with increasing water intake.
I love it.
Majority of people tend to not drink enough water throughout the day, especially for me living in Phoenix. It's the desert. They need to get water in.
Oh, definitely.
If I work with a lot of athletes, which is even more important to get that water in. So that's normally my step one is working on the water intake.
Which is huge, especially in kind of our I'll drink anything but water society, right? Like I drink 10 sodas a day. Does that count? Not exactly. It's fluid, but it's not really the same. We don't get the same benefits as we get from water. And so, I think water is a great step and gives them kind of an example of something that they can have a success with. It's, relatively easy. There's not a lot of barriers, I guess, to drinking more water other than just doing it. And so, I love that as kind of a first step. I talk with my patients a lot about kind of that incremental change idea, like making just those baby steps, just building one thing on another, trying to make, 10 1% changes instead of 10% change, because those 1% changes are something that's a lot easier to incorporate into my life and lifestyle, and I can do that just a little bit at a time rather than overhauling a whole part of my life, like my diet, which is a huge part of my life.
Yeah.
Right? I can just take and say, I'm going to make one little change at a time. What are some of those changes that you have your folks make?
Well, as you were talking about that, I totally remember one I was talking with that I can't remember exactly how much sugar she put in her coffee, but we're like, let's back that down to 1 teaspoon instead. Like, awesome. It was something, she was like 3 or 4 or something, like, let's just take it down to 1. It's still sweet, but it's not going to be as much. So just something simple that you still have your little sweetness if you need it, but
That's an awesome example of just, it doesn't have to be a wholesale change where it's like, okay, now you're drinking nothing but broccoli and kale water and, like, here's your 200 calories, good luck with that. It can be just making subtle changes over time. So one of the exercises that I like to have my patients do is I will give them the assignment of tracking everything that they eat, not calories, just what they eat. Not a huge fan of calorie tracking, but that's another conversation for another day. But say, okay, write down everything that you eat, and then we're going to go back through that at the end of that week or 2-week period and say, okay, I want you to circle everything that you think, that probably wasn't the best choice. And then we're going to star everything that you felt like was a good choice. And we're really taking a closer look then at their pattern. And so we can see their kind of eating pattern and see what they're doing. And then with all of the starred items, I say, okay, all the things that you're doing well, that you feel like you're doing well, let's find a way to keep those as part of your pattern. What can you change? What can you do in your life to make those a permanent part of your pattern? And then all of the things that we circled, how can we then make those maybe not so good choices into better choices and make that part of your pattern? And so we can take that and say, okay, let's change just one of those elements in your pattern at a time. So like you had an apple that day, awesome. How do we make sure you keep having an apple or something like that, a piece of fruit or something healthy instead of the processed whatever, as that better option. And so we can just take that list that they do for 2 weeks, and that usually serves us for a while of making just little goals that we can say, I'm going to take a bad choice and make it a good choice. I'm going to take maybe a good choice and make it a better choice by making it something I do regularly. And so that's something that I've found to be really successful with people, where it's them making those decisions instead of me telling them what to do.
Yeah.
Right? It's like, oh, these are things that I identified are either good or bad parts of my pattern.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you need them to buy into it. If
Absolutely.
we tell them what to do, it's never going to be successful with it. Right. They need to be fully bought in and
absolutely
into the situation.
Right. If they're not invested, it doesn't work. And I tell people that all the time. In fact, I've turned a fair amount of patients away that come and ask me questions about my program, and I'll essentially say, if you're not ready to make a change in your lifestyle, this program probably won't work for you, because it's not a magic pill. There's nothing magic about it other than I can give you specific information about your body, but I can't change the fact that you have to make some changes in your life and lifestyle.
Yeah.
And I think one of the things is that everybody assumes that people that are fit or thin don't have to make those changes in their life and lifestyle, which unfortunately is not true. And fortunately in some ways, I think it's good that we all have to kind of earn our health and fitness. And there are definitely some people that genetically stay thinner, but they're not necessarily more healthy. Yeah.
They can still eat the crap.
Yeah, exactly. And so that's something that I think is important for everyone to understand, that we all should be making these incremental changes towards a healthier lifestyle, and that journey is kind of never over. Like, no, not at all. Because Christmas comes around every year, if for nothing else, right? We always have that battle to fight, and so that's something that's part of my lifestyle pattern, that I have certain events, Christmas and birthdays and things, that always kind of interrupt what I want to be doing for health and fitness, that I always have to kind of bring it back around and get back on track, and that's life. And
that's the biggest thing is, yes, you're going to have situations that you're going to get off. You're not going to avoid family, well, you may want to avoid family things, but there's just certain situations that you're going to go to.
Yeah,
it's just a matter of you get through that situation and then you get back on track. You don't let that be, okay, I failed, so I'm just going to go back to my old ways again. Right.
And that's an important thing to think about, is not letting one failure snowball into multiple. Well, and it doesn't, I think seeing it as a failure is one of the reasons why we kind of get off track. I try to get out of that, like, oh, I failed mindset. And I think that's one of the reasons why I don't like calorie counting, is because people get to lunch and they're like, dang it, I failed again,
Yeah.
right? And that failure mindset, it's not about pass or fail. It's not about win or lose. It really is like, I can win this meal, or I can win this decision, and not, not necessarily pass or fail. And if I didn't win that decision, that's okay. It's a learning process of like, okay, so maybe I had too big of a slice of cake. Next time I'm going to try halving that slice of cake, and that's okay. Or even better is enjoy the darn cake and just know that because I had that cake, there's maybe some other decisions that I'm going to have to do over the next day or two of like eating a little bit less and cutting back a little bit. And so it's not going to fully reverse that cake, but at the same time, like a series of good decisions to follow that up can counterbalance that to a large measure. So
definitely.
Yeah.
And the whole failure mindset is a huge thing anyway in so many aspects, but it's really getting past the fact that you quote unquote failed and just use it as a learning experience, like you were saying, of what can you do next time to do better.
Absolutely. Yeah, treating life as kind of an experiment of sorts, right? And those 1% changes are just you tweaking the experiment just a little bit. Yeah. And I don't know, maybe that's kind of the nerd in me. I like kind of that experiment mentality of like, if I try eating this for lunches, what's that going to do? Is that going to help me be healthier, or is that going to backfire? And that way I can kind of test and see what does work for me. What can I eat for lunches that's easy, quick, healthy, and kind of passes a few tests of like, is this real food or is this manufactured food? Can I pluck it or can I shoot it? Well, if not, it's probably not food, right? And so, running those kind of tests and seeing, is this real food? Is this something that's good for my body? Well, that's okay to like experiment with that a little bit and find out what's going to work for you.
Oh, definitely.
And so I think that helps us make those 1% changes. There are definitely ways to find little changes that you can make in your life and lifestyle, and that's what we're really here for, is to help people make those changes. And so if you feel like you could use and benefit from somebody helping kind of break down your current pattern and lifestyle, we're always here as a resource. So feel free to reach out to us.
Certainly.
You can direct message us or drop a comment down below, and we're happy to help you kind of troubleshoot your lifestyle and see what you can do to make some of those changes.
Yeah, I mean, it's what we do every day with our clients. We're always talking about trying to figure out how to integrate these changes for the healthier lifestyle. So if you guys have any questions, definitely reach out to us.
Yeah, and I would say I'm working on that for my own lifestyle all the time.
Oh yeah, every day.
Yeah, and I've got kids, and so I'm trying to help, like, how do I help them figure this out for their lifestyle so I don't put them on a track where they're behind and they don't know how to exercise and they don't know how to eat healthily and they think that vegetables are poisonous or whatever, I'm working on that too. I'm always constantly learning what 1% changes I can make and what 1% changes I can inspire in my family. And so it's definitely a journey, and I would love to share more of my journey with you if you've got questions or need help. So thank you so much for watching. Again, Dr. Cameron Garber and Dr. Brianne Showman Brown, thanks so much for joining us, and we'll see you next time.
Bye guys.
Whoop.